Be ready? Start. In 2014, the Supreme Court granted legal recognition to transgender and other gender non-conforming persons in Nalsa versus Union of India. In particular, it held that all persons have the constitutional right to self identify their gender. Further, it directed union and state governments to allow transgender persons to access reservations in public education and employment. Following the judgment, the Rajya Sabha passed the Rights of Transgender Persons Bill 2014. However, the 2014 bill never made it to the Lok Sabha and ultimately lapsed. 2 years later, a new bill was introduced in the Lok Sabha, the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Bill 2016. In contrast to the 2014 bill, the 2016 bill substantially diverged from NALSA, so much so that the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Social Justice highlighted several instances where the 2016 bill conflicted with NALSA in its 43rd report presented to the Lok Sabha on 21st September 2017. Ultimately, however, the Lok Sabha passed the bill without incorporating the recommendations of the Standing Committee. The 2016 bill became the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019 and came into force on 5th December 2019, contending that the 2019 Act contained unconstitutional provisions. Various transgender persons challenged the Act before the Supreme Court. In particular, two writ petitions were filed. The first was filed on 11th December 2019 by Swati Bidhan, a transgender advocate residing in Assam. The second was filed by various notable transgender activists such as Grace Banu and Vijayanti Vasanti Mowgli on 12th June 2020. The petitioners seek for the court to strike down sections 4, 5, 6, 7, 12, bracket 3, 18, bracket A and 18, bracket D of the Act as unconstitutional. In addition, they pray for the court to issue a writ of mandamus that directs center and state governments to provide reservations for transgender persons in public employment and education as directed by the court in Nalsa. In Nalsa versus Union of India, transgender people were given equal protection under the Constitution and their rights were to be guaranteed. Individuals' rights are recognized when they self-identity as belonging to a particular gender. Moreover, the Supreme Court ruled that sex discrimination extends not only to biological sex but also to the innate perception of one's gender, that is, the gender that the trans individual identifies with. It was acknowledged that gender identity plays an integral role in defining one's personality and is a basic tenet of leading a dignified life. Despite being a landmark judgment and an important milestone in the transgender community's struggle for equal rights, it did not guarantee their equal treatment or provide a path to a life of dignity. As a result of the 2014 judgment, the Parliament has introduced a series of bills addressing the rights of transgender people. Most recently, the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act of 2019 was introduced in July 2019. Since it nullifies the NALSA judgment, the transgender community has responded negatively to it. They claim that the new law will not only be insufficient but that it will also revert the gains made to secure the rights of transgender people. The NALSA ruling recognized the principle of self declaration as the only legal means by which gender can be determined, since psychological or medical evidence. Similarly, the verdict held that any insistence on sex reconstruction surgery is immoral and illegal. In this case, the ruling followed the best practices and standards of international law. The United Nations, for example, requires that medical and legal processes of gender reassignment for transgender people be separate, including the removal of evaluations from psychologists, physicians, or other experts. Specifically, the Transgender Persons Act 2019 mandates under Section 5 that to legally recognize a transgender identity, an individual must apply for a transgender certificate which will label their gender as transgender. As part of the new rules, however, the individual must submit a psychologist's report for the certificate of identity. Additionally, if the individual undergoes surgery to change their gender to male or female, they need to obtain a revised certificate from the district magistrate. If they can submit proof of their gender confirmation surgery, then the district magistrate stop over.